Welcome to another episode, everyone. He wanted to be a tough guy. He wanted to look tough. And now he is serving life without the possibility of parole in prison.
Someone asked me to go with him for a robbery. And I accepted because I didn't want to turn it down. I didn't want to look weak. So I went there and I took Mr. Castillo's life. So I've been in prison 21 years. I was arrested at the age of 21 and sentenced to life without. It all kind of changed when I was in the corporate shoe. I started to reflect on the pain that I caused Mr. Castillo and his family. I realized all the holidays and all the events that they had, they're not there anymore because of me.
All right, first and foremost, what's your name and where are you from?
Hello, my name is Carlos Martinez, and I was born in Almani, California.
And how long you been down?
So I've been in prison 21 years. I was arrested at the age of 21 and sentenced to life without for the murder of Mr. Castillo.
If you don't mind discussing, and feel free to tell me next question if you don't feel comfortable.
No, absolutely.
What were some of the circumstances that led to that specific instance?
Really, my whole life, I've been trying to prove myself, right? And that stems from me wanting to be tough. Growing up, my father was an alcoholic and he used to beat us. And a little bit into my adolescence, he tried to take his own life. I remember going to the hospital and seeing him laying there, and half his body was destroyed. And I told myself I would never be like him. And from that point forward, I wanted to be tough, and I started acting out. I got in fights in school. I started hanging out with the wrong crowd. And it was that mentality that carried me off into the rest of my life, where I wanted to be tough and be recognized. And now I was kind of afraid of being like my father. I didn't want to be, my last picture of him was him laying in that hospital bed. He was missing an eye, and I was ashamed of that. And so I carried that within me wherever I went. That day, someone asked me to go with him for a robbery. And I accepted because I didn't want to turn it down. I didn't want to look weak. So I went there and I took Mr. Castillo's life. And he didn't do anything wrong. And it took me a long time to get to this point.
Yeah, that's how it happens, of course. Certain things in our childhood, they affect us. They do affect our adulthood. This is not to excuse anyone's behavior, just to state the facts. You hear this all of the time. And so here we have an individual that wanted to prove himself, couldn't wait to prove himself, wanted to be tough, wanted to look tough, wanted to act tough, didn't want to be weak like he believed his father to be. And a robbery then turns into a murder. He's been locked up for 21 years and has life without the possibility of parole. Already been locked up for 21 years and been locked up since he was 21 years old. Of course, you find a lot of individuals that have life in prison. Most of these individuals got life at a very young age. They got life when they were 21, 19, 18. They're in their 40s now, 50s, whatever, and they've been locked up for 25, 30 years. It is, I would say, not as prevalent or more, certainly rarer for individuals in my age group to go out there and catch a life sentence. So he caught the life sentence at 21 years old and has been in there ever since with really no chance of parole. Eventually, perhaps, hopefully he'll have a chance, but we have to be careful with the decisions that we make, because he was 21 when he went in and may never get out. So he didn't have a chance to live. You live until you're 21, you didn't really experience life, not everything that life has to offer. So he perhaps could die in prison and without ever having a chance to live. Nevertheless, of course, many people will say, well, his victim didn't get a chance to live either. He took out his victim, but he seems to be remorseful for that after he went to the SHU program and was able to reflect. And time will do that to you. When you sit in there for a long time, eventually you come to terms with your indiscretions and you start looking to do better, hoping to have another chance.
I've been in prison, like I said, 21 years. And the whole time I was committing more crimes and contributing to the culture. It all kind of changed when I was in the corporate shoe. And I was sitting in the shoe and my mom came to visit me. I hadn't seen her in like 5 years. And when she came up, she was on a walker and her eye was red because she has diabetes and a blood vessel like burst in her eyes. And tears were coming out of her eyes, and she came to see me. And I realized in that moment that I had been causing her so much pain for something I believed in as a child. I was a little kid in a man's body, seeing the shoe at 30 years old, and it made me revalue myself. And as she walked out that room, I started to reflect on the pain that it caused Mr. Castillo and his family. I realized all the holidays and all the events that they had, they're not there anymore because of me. And that filled me with anxiety and shame. And I started to readjust what I wanted to do with myself. So I came out with the shoe, and it wasn't all at one time. It was small things. I got my GED, and then I became a peer leadership mentor because I wanted to help other people get their GEDs. And my change really was concrete when I got an infection from my drug addiction. And because of that infection, I lost the ability to move my legs. And I was stuck in the Trin Valley State Hospital. And I was laying in bed and I couldn't move my legs, and I had tubes sticking out of me everywhere. And I was looking at myself, and I became even more ashamed of what I did to myself. And I was chasing the high, and before I knew it, I was at like the...
Yeah, and how ironic, because he said that he was being a tough guy, wanted to be a tough guy, was playing tough, and this is how he ended up catching this case that led to life without parole in prison. And he wanted to be a tough guy because he had seen his father lying there on the hospital bed, missing an eye or something, and he was a drunk or had been getting drunk, and he just looked weak. So he was determined not to let this happen to him. Yet, really, essentially, he ends up doing the same thing, just in prison. You in prison, you are a drug addict, and you're addicted to the point, and your body is rejecting this stuff to the point that now you're in the hospital and you can't move your legs, and you have tubes hanging out of you. Well, that's worse than what your father was going through, it looks like, in the hospital. And as he's sitting there on the hospital bed looking weak. The same, if someone would have came in and seen him there on the hospital bed, he'd have looked the same that his father had looked, weak, like something's not right. Got all these tubes in him and he can't move his legs, all based on an addiction. So in some ways, you still ended up becoming, like your father.
Rock bottom of my life. I couldn't move, and it took me almost a year to be able to move my legs again. I would walk up and down the hallway with the nurse, and that shame of having tubes hanging out of me, I couldn't use the restroom on my own. That was the final point. I knew that I couldn't live like this anymore, so I came out and I joined the Pause for Life program, where we help dogs. And it's crazy because in the Pause for Life program, a lot of the dogs, they come in and they're aggressive or they're afraid and they act out. And it's because of the trauma that they had.
Nearly a year.
Snapping at you, they're growling at you because they want to show that they're tough, they're walking around real tough, But really, they just want to be loved and be held and be supported, right? And that's why I see a lot of people that are in prison, the way they conduct themselves, they're snapping out when they're growling, they're barking, but it's all behind the trauma that happened in the past. Ever since I joined the Pause for Life program, I really let the change take over. I'm part of the Cal State LA program. I've earned associate's degrees and psychology degrees, but really what I want to do is help other people. I want to take my experience and all the bad choices I made and help people make better choices. And that's what we do with the Peer Leadership Mentor program. That's what we do in the Pause for Life program. I just joined the next cycle and be in the OMCP program and be a drug counselor. I want to use these experiences and help other people. I recently saw the Menendez brothers on TV, and I saw the change that they did and how it led to their ultimate release. It made me realize that there's still hope. And hope is really something that could inspire you and drive you and give you more passion in life.
Right.
So that's what...
The Menendez brother, it led to their ultimate release. They haven't gotten out, as far as I can recall. They were trying to get out and was closed, and Congress or the government was acting like they had a chance, and then they had denied them once again. But it's good to see this individual having a positive attitude and trying, at least making an effort to do better. And that's what happens. That's why sometimes we need the chance to flourish and grow as human beings. Sometimes we make mistakes, particularly when we are younger. This again is when a lot of these individuals end up catching a life case when they are a lot younger. And so they are not fully developed. Their brains are not fully developed. We're still making mistakes when we are younger that we would not make in our older years.
I want to lead with hope, not just for myself, but for other people, the young guys that are coming in, and they think, you know what, I'm gonna go in there and do something crazy to let them know that I'm tough. Like, you don't gotta do that anymore. You gotta work on yourself and work on your family, because they're the ones that really matter. 20, 30 years in, they're the only ones that are visiting you still. It's not gonna be your high school friends. They got a family, kids, they're living their own life. You gotta worry about yourself and what's better for you, your family, and really making amends for all the harm that you did to society, being part of gangs and being part of the drug culture, do everything you've done. Like, you owe a debt and you have to start chipping away and paying back.
Absolutely, man. That is beautiful that you found purpose now and giving back
Thank you.
after all that you've taken. And
Yeah,
have you forgiven yourself for taking that life?
I'm getting close to it. I wouldn't say that I've forgiven myself, but I think every day that I give back to society, it brings me that much closer, because it weighs heavy on my heart. It feels like on the holiday seasons, you think about somebody sitting there without their brother, their son, and it's not something that I can let go of easily. But every time I have a dog right now, his name's Zoom. He's terrified of everything. And every time I see him start to come out of the shower, I feel a little bit like relief. Like, okay, I'm giving back in something. Every time I teach math in the peer leadership mentor program, every time someone gets a breakthrough, like, oh, I get it. That's like me giving back, and I feel a little bit. So it's an ongoing process, and with time I'll be there. But I feel like I got a way to go to give back, to feel complete freedom.
Absolutely. One more question. What do you want your legacy to be when you're dead and gone? What do you want people to remember you by? How do you want people to speak on your name?
I want people to think of me as someone that helped, that made a difference. When they were down and when they were about to make a choice in their life that could have changed the rest of their life, they chose the right thing because of me. And maybe they're with their family now, or maybe they're with their kids now, or watching graduation. And it's because of the work that we did in here that I'm able to contribute to society out there. I have life without, but that doesn't mean I can't be effective to society out there. So every day people are going home, and I just pray that I can help somebody that's going home.
Beautiful, brother. I appreciate you sharing your story, man.
Yeah, man. Shout out to you, brother. And I've seen someone recently. I covered someone that had life without parole, and he was paroled. Normally life without parole means just that. You are going to do life inside of prison. You are going to die inside of a prison. Nevertheless, things are changing, particularly in California. A lot of lifers are coming home, and individuals with life without parole are also coming home. But I do like this individual here, his attitude. He seems real positive, and he seems to have really thought about his crime and the effect of his crime, because it's not often that I personally hear individuals saying that he took this individual away from his family, and on holidays is when he really feels it. He really feels the ramifications of his crime, that he took someone that he's in there, he knows people are at home celebrating, and someone's loved one is not there to celebrate because of his actions. And that's, I would say, accountability. And it seems to affect him. And so, who knows? We'll see. There are individuals that have taken a life, and individuals who have taken more than one life and don't have life without the possibility of parole. They still end up coming home at some point. Perhaps he can as well, particularly if he is really redeeming himself and is trying to redeem himself and does redeem himself and can help contribute and be an asset to society. This is an individual who can help individuals that were in his position, or that are in his position at the age that he was at that time, and he can help steer them in the right direction, thus contributing to society and the greater good of the world. You can't give up on people, because not all people, not all of the time, because some individuals do have the capacity to redeem themselves and redeem their indiscretions. We'll see what happens with that. Shout out to Between the Lines. This is Between the Lines. Go check them out. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. Subscribe to my other channel, The Unwoke Culture. We over there having real conversations. We're trying to figure out what happened to Nolan Wales. We think we know. We're getting to it. Life for 21 years. And, for those who may not know, I've done over 30 years in prison, California prison systems. is violent, and it's not easy to think positive and to even speak positive like he's doing. It's not easy, and particularly if you grew up in gangs. He said he was from El Monte. One tattoo will show on his face, and it's a lot of pressure there to still be tough and still be a killer right there in prison. So it takes a lot of character to come out in the open and say, I'm trying to help individuals change their lives. I'm no longer about that life right there in particular. So shout out to him for that. Let me know what you think in the comments. Stay safe and stay free, people.